19-5. That was the qualifying head-to-head between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton last season. 19 weekends where the Monegasque was ahead, 5 where the 7-time world champion was. Hold that number, because the man who runs that team has just explained how it got turned around, and his explanation has almost nothing to do with driving. Start with what last season actually was, told flat. 2025 was the first year in Lewis Hamilton's entire Formula One career in which he did not stand on a single Grand Prix podium, not one. His teammate stood on 7. He was knocked out in the first part of qualifying in each of the last 3 sessions of that year. If you had written his obituary as a front-running driver that December, the numbers would have backed you completely. Wherever you are watching from, drop your country below, because that list keeps getting longer and I do read it. Subscribe while you are there, because what I am about to show you gets tested in front of the Tifosi at Monza. Now, the man doing the talking, because his record is why this matters. Fred Vasseur ran Assart, ran Renault, ran Sauber, and personally signed drivers who went on to become world champions before Ferrari ever called him. He took the Maranello job at the start of 2023 into a team that had not won a driver's title since Kimi Räikkönen in 2007. He is not a man who hands out compliments for public relations purposes. His entire public method is refusing to get excited. So listen to what he said after the Barcelona Grand Prix, reported by Formula One's own official website, on the day Hamilton took his first win in red. He said that Hamilton had been managing the situation very well, that as the team adjusted the strategy, he pushed more or less accordingly, and that he had been very outstanding that day. Then he kept going, and this is the part that is not about that Sunday at all. Lewis's approach, he said, was consistent from the beginning. He is fully committed, fully convinced, and he is pushing everybody. Pushing everybody, not pushing the car, not pushing himself, everybody. That is a team principle telling you his driver's main contribution is to the building, not to the lap chart. Let me put that under the light, question by question. Question 1. Is this just a nice thing to say after a win? Vasseur closed those same comments by warning against exactly that, saying they had to stay calm, that it was not as though they were nowhere last week and world champions today. So no. He praised the driver and refused to praise the moment in the same breath. Question 2. What did Hamilton actually push for? He told us himself after finishing second at Monaco. He said last season was really tough for both of them and that he had been begging Vasseur for certain changes to the team and to the car, and that Vasseur pulled through. Begging is his word, not mine. Question 3. Did that come free? No. And this is where a compliment becomes a receipt. Question 4. Who paid for it? Everybody in the factory who preferred the old way. Now hold that thought, because Vasseur has just gone considerably further than a race day compliment, and hardly anybody covered it. In an interview with Auto Hebdo in the last week, Vasseur was talking about technical risk. He said he had been pushing Ferrari's engineers to take more of it, and then he made a comparison that no Ferrari team principal makes lightly. He contrasted Maranello with his time at Sauber, a Swiss team with a famously cautious identity, and said there had been a stronger willingness there to chase ambitious ideas. He admitted Ferrari may have settled into a way of working that was too comfortable, and said the team deliberately moved off that position for this car by making aggressive calls in several areas. Read that in plain terms. The team principal of Ferrari publicly agreed with a criticism his driver had been making about the institution the driver had joined, about the years before that driver arrived. Hamilton had been unusually blunt about that first season. He believed Ferrari lacked the urgency to turn driver feedback into actual parts on the car. He described his pursuit of change as relentless. In December of last year, with no podiums to his name, that reads like a man making excuses. In August, with his team principal saying the same thing in an interview, it reads as something else entirely. And now the numbers, because the compliment either survives them or it does not. 19-5 in qualifying last season. 7 podiums to 0. After 11 rounds of this season, Hamilton leads Leclerc on points. He has won a Grand Prix. He goes into the summer break second in the Drivers' Championship, 50 points behind Kimi Antonelli, with a maximum of 316 still available. Leclerc sits fourth, 81 behind the leader. 9 rounds into this year, Motorsport Week counted 5 podiums for Hamilton. The man who managed 0 across an entire season managed 5 in 9 weekends. And he is 41 years old. So there is the honest question sitting under all of it. What changed? Because a driver does not gain half a second of natural speed at 41. Whatever moved, it was not him. If you were Vasseur last winter, you had two options and both cost you something real. Back the new driver, override the way the factory has always done things, and if it fails, you are the team principal who let an outsider rewrite Ferrari and lost the room. Or protect the institution, tell Hamilton to adapt like everybody else adapts. And if the car stays slow, you are the man who had a 7-time world champion in the building and did not listen to him. Which one do you take? Like this video if you back the driver, comment if you protect the factory, and I will read the split out next time. Subscribe while you are down there. Now the comparison that actually proves this, and it is not this season against last season. It is Vasseur against Vasseur. Go back to Abu Dhabi, December of 2025. The season had just finished. Ferrari were 4th, their worst result since 2020. Hamilton had no podiums, and Vasseur was asked, by Planet F1 and other media, about his driver publicly lodging documents full of suggestions for how the team should change. He did not defend the team. He said he would be destroyed if his drivers told him Ferrari were doing a good job. He said the summary of a season for a driver is finding where you can improve always and not being there to hear that things are fine. Their DNA, he said, and his own DNA, is to put the team on the limit in every single area. In December, that sounded like a boss absorbing a difficult year with grace. 8 months on, with the driver who pushed hardest leading the team on points and second in a world championship, it does not read as damage control at all. It reads as a description of a method that was already running. 2 statements, 8 months apart, from a man under 2 completely different amounts of pressure, and the position never moved. That is rarer in this paddock than any lap time. Here is the structural reason this was so hard, and it explains why the change took a full year to show. A Formula One team is not a group of people waiting for instructions. It is decades of accumulated process, supplier relationships, and internal habit, and Ferrari carries more of that than any team on the grid, because it is the only one that has been here since the beginning. When a driver arrives and says the way you make decisions is wrong, he is not requesting a setup change. He is asking hundreds of people to accept that the method they are proud of produced last place among the top teams. That is why driver feedback so often disappears into a factory and never comes back out. Not because nobody listened, because listening properly means somebody senior has to spend their own credibility forcing it through. And a team principal only has so much of that, and every unit he spends on a driver is a unit he cannot spend on anything else. Now the strongest case against everything I have just said, made properly, because it deserves to be. The regulations changed. Completely. This is the biggest technical overhaul in the sport's history, and Hamilton has said himself that these cars suit him in a way the previous generation never did. Maybe the entire turnaround is that simple, and every word about culture is a story we are all telling on top of a rule change that would have happened regardless of who was in the second car. Vasseur said back in March that this regulation shift demanded more adaptation from drivers than any before it. That cuts both ways. If Leclerc has struggled to adapt to a car that suits Hamilton, then 19-5 did not reverse because anybody changed a culture. It reversed because the ground moved, and one of the 2 men happened to be standing in a better place when it did. And that argument is genuinely strong. I cannot rule it out, and neither can anybody else because there is no version of the season that ran without the rule change to compare against. So here is where I land. I do not know how much of Ferrari's turnaround belongs to Lewis Hamilton, and anybody who tells you they can put a percentage on it is guessing. What I can put in front of you is a sequence. A driver said the institution was too comfortable. The team principal, a year later, said the same thing to a French magazine, in his own words, on the record. The driver said he had been begging for changes. The team principal said the driver is pushing everybody. Nobody has contradicted anybody. The 2 accounts match, and they match on the specific claim that the problem was never the drawings. That is not proof that one man rebuilt Ferrari. One driver does not rebuild Ferrari. But when the boss and the driver independently describe the same cause, and the results move in the same direction as their description, the question of who actually changed that building is a legitimate one to ask out loud. And 19-5 is what carries all of it. 19-5 last season, reversed this season, by a 41-year-old who did not get any faster. Vasseur called him outstanding after Barcelona, and the word that mattered came in the sentence after it. He is pushing everybody. That is the whole thing. Hamilton did not outdrive that number. He pushed, and the factory moved. Zandvoort is next, then Monza on the 4th to the 6th of September, where Ferrari's second engine upgrade and their low drag package arrived together at the circuit where the Tifosi expect a win and nothing else. If the culture Vasseur described is real, Monza is where it produces something, in front of the only crowd that keeps score in public. So tell me now, name the person who owes Lewis Hamilton an apology for what they said last December. I will start. Say the name below, subscribe so you are here when Monza settles it, and hit like if you want that breakdown the day the upgrade runs. Until the next one.